It's so typical of Harry to, again, not understand why he's on the outs, not understand why the family doesn't communicate with him. And it is because of his own behavior. This is a result of Harry's behavior and his wife's behavior.
Prince William means business. He isn't backing down in his war with King Charles over the future of the British monarchy. In fact, this guy is just going harder and faster now because he knows that the British royal family is in some serious peril as a result of the Andrew Mountbatten Windsor scandal. And what's interesting too is that even though officially, and you do see this a lot in the mainstream media, Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace continue to say, no, we're in lockstep over these issues, it's William who's now calling the shots. It's William who is bouncing his father into tougher positions by briefing the mainstream media. And to be honest, he has to do this. It's so important. Charles has been found lacking in terms of his seriousness when it came to dealing with Andrew and the York girls. And so now William is saying enough is enough. Two major developments in the past 24 hours. First, William's plans to actually strip Andrew from the line of succession before any of this came to the public fore. But perhaps the most surprising, and I do know this will divide opinion with some of you, the treatment of Beatrice and Eugenie, who are in total meltdown, total collapse, after William banned them from all future royal events this year, including their beloved royal ascot. So let's get into the details of this, interestingly revealed by Charlotte Griffiths, the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday. She maintains, and it's worth pointing this out for background, close contact to friends of Prince Harry. These two women aligned with Prince Harry, and she is very clear that they are also trying to distance themselves from her father too. But here's the new big news. Princess Beatrice and Eugenie have been told they cannot join the royal family at Royal Ascot this year amid concerns about the unfolding scandal involving the House of York and their ties with Jeffrey Epstein. Sources say the sisters, whose names appear several times in the Epstein files, will not take their seats in the royal box at the prestigious horse racing event in June, nor can they join senior royals for the royal procession. The move, said to have completely blindsided Beatrice, now 37, Eugenie, 35, who are already reeling from the arrest of their father, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, last month on suspicion of misconduct in public office. But the Mail on Sunday understands that the move is part of a wider decision to exclude the princesses from all public-facing events for the foreseeable future. It follows high-level palace meetings about the role the pair should play, given that serious questions remain about the extent of their relationship with the paedophile financier, including financial links. The news comes amid reports of a gulf between the sisters and the Prince and Princess of Wales, who are said to be particularly keen to keep them at arm's length until details of any links are clearer. A well-placed source told the Mail on Sunday, "I've spoken to my friend who works at Ascot, and they said the girls have been told they can't be there this year. Beatrice has taken it the hardest. She's been completely blindsided by all of this." I mean, remember, Tom Sykes of The Royalist reported just last week that Beatrice is on the verge of a mental breakdown. Prince William is also said to have advised other royals not to appear in photographs alongside the pair for the rest of the year. So this is purgatory that they're now in. The move indicates that the palace accepts that any suggestion Beatrice and Eugenie advance their own interests by turning a blind eye to the source of the York's fortune poses a serious risk to the wider family. Another source added Ascot would be out of the question because the royals have been told they can't have pictures with the girls for the rest of the year. And further support has come from an unlikely place. And this is where you get into the war. Harry and Meghan still at war with William and Catherine because the Sussexes in Montecito are backing the Yorks. Well-placed rumours suggest that Prince Harry has invited Beatrice to use his £11 million home as a bolt hole, although he and Meghan have been closer to Eugenie and her husband, who remained in contact with the couple when they stepped back as working royals in 2020. Beatrice is said to have taken her father's fall from grace the hardest. A source explained, Harry has communicated with the girls, saying something along the lines of, He knows what it's like to be at the wrong end of the institution. He said there's an open invite, especially for Beatrice if she ever wants one.
Over the past few years, Prince William has increasingly presented himself not just as heir, but as architect. His approach has been deliberate, focused, strategic. The monarchy, in his vision, appears streamlined, fewer working royals, clearer lines of authority, and a sharpened public identity. It's an image of efficiency and stability in an era that demands accountability. But trimming a centuries-old institution isn't like reorganizing a company. It involves bloodlines, loyalties, and deeply personal histories.
Now, this is so interesting to me, Brittany, because again, and I'm not doing his PR here, I'm simply stating the facts. William was right when it came to Beatrice and Eugenie. Do you remember a few months ago, he was saying that their finances need to be fully evaluated. And again, Charles bottled it on that.
And William was right about Andrew. I think he wanted to strip Andrew of his place in line of succession, maybe perhaps a year ago or even more. So much has come out over these last couple of weeks, and it's become increasingly clear. Even somebody like me who was, a bit soft on the York girls, I understand where this decision is coming from because the optics are just terrible at this point. The confusion over how much of the girls' lives were funded by Epstein to a certain extent or funded by their parents' nefarious dealings have all come to the forefront. And so they definitely need to be sort of put on the outside for a little bit. And maybe they will be able to reestablish their reputations and these sorts of things. But this is a deeply complex matter. And it's definitely one where the future of the monarchy is hugely in question. And so the monarchy has to very much close ranks here. But I think probably the most disastrous thing for Beatrice and Eugenie to do is to be seen to be too close to Harry and Meghan, because if Andrew is going to lose a lot on his end, Harry and Meghan are definitely going to be some of the next to go. And so this is definitely, they don't really have any way of winning. Best for them to just keep quiet, go about their work, try to just spend time with their family, maybe take a vacation. Don't go to Montecito, take a vacation and, be clear with the royal family and maybe offer that transparency or offer to give up your royal titles. That might do a lot to help the girls at this point. But this whole thing is a mess, and it's definitely a mess of years and decades of mismanagement within the royal institution. It didn't have to be this way. Things could have been addressed so much earlier and so much more definitively. And now we just have a disaster, and William is trying the best he can, I think, to keep the monarchy intact.
Yeah, he is. Brittany, what do you make of the fact that Prince Harry is privately in back channel communications with the princesses, but of course doing it not really out of the goodness of his heart, but to make a point about the British royal family? I found it very interesting that Charlotte Griffiths, and remember, she does have strong connections to Harry. That's why I point this out, because she actually quoted what he said in quotation marks. So that does mean, I know how these newspapers work. You don't quote something in quotation marks that a royal has said unless you're very confident that you can back that up. And the line from Harry, it's just so annoying, Brittany, because it's covered in his victimhood narrative. He knows what it's like to be at the wrong end of the institution. Now, to try and suggest that Eugenie and Beatrice are the victims here. Anyway, Brittany, what did you make of that line?
Dan, it's so typical of Harry to, again, not understand why he's on the outs, not understand why the family doesn't communicate with him. And it is because of his own behavior. This is a result of Harry's behavior, years of catastrophically bad decisions by Harry that he refuses to take responsibility for. Again, let's not forget Harry and Meghan on their Netflix series basically mocks the queen. We have Harry in his book Spare writing all sort of dirty details about himself and his family. And so, yeah, the royal family kept its distance because you can't. We have Oprah as well. And the reason Beatrice and Eugenie are being, let's say, kind of put on the periphery now is not only because of their father, but what influence their father had on them, what through him they achieved or got deals with, these sorts of things, are all being called into question. It is the natural result of bad behavior, let's say ethically questionable behavior. This is where we've gotten to now, more on Andrew's end than the girls' end. But again, the question is, how did they benefit from his unethical dealings? That is the big question here. And so this is a result of bad decisions, poor decisions over many, many years. And so the girls and Harry have really nobody to blame in many ways but themselves.
And when figures like Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie appear to be stepping further from prominence, observers can't help but ask, is this modernization or consolidation? Because in monarchy, proximity equals power. The shadow hanging over the York name has been impossible to ignore. The controversies surrounding Prince Andrew dramatically altered public trust and forced the institution into defensive mode. Since then, the royal household has had to walk a delicate tightrope, distancing from scandal without publicly dismantling family bonds. Beatrice and Eugenie, notably, managed to remain largely scandal-free.
Yeah, and then as you point out, Brittany, new revelations from Roya Nika. Now, she is the royal editor of the Sunday Times, but effectively does get the direct briefing from the palace. And this is so interesting because it's William very much making his position clear. I wanted to do more. I wanted to do even more than what you already know I wanted to do. And so here's what she posted. The Prince of Wales wanted Andrew Mountbatten Windsor removed from the line of succession last year. William is frustrated by the delay in axing Andrew, and government sources say it now may take years. And you'll remember that this was the really mortifying interaction between William and Andrew, which heralded the end of his time in the royal family, as William just so obviously made it clear he could not be there. And Roy Anika reports the Prince of Wales wanted Andrew Mountbatten removed from the line of succession last year. It can be revealed Prince William is frustrated by the delay in axing Andrew, who remains eighth in line to the throne. On Saturday, the king was seen driving on the Sandringham estate. Royal sources confirmed he did not visit Andrew, has not seen him since his arrest, and has no plans to visit him. Now, that's new development that I want to come to as well. But back to William. The prince's dislike for Andrew is long-standing. In 2021, sources close to him said he considered his uncle to be a risk and a threat to the family because of his uncle's ungracious and ungrateful attitude towards his position. So before we come to the king, Brittany, this is a very interesting piece of briefing to me, directly to Roy Anika, who is as close to the stenographer for the palaces as can be. And this is William, once again, making it clear that not only was he advocating, as we had previously reported, for his uncle to be stripped of his titles by his father, but also the line of succession. William knew where this was going, because at that point, Brittany, no one really in the public or the mainstream media was talking about the line of succession. So William knew where this was going, advocated for harder action, but was overturned again in a huge mistake.
These mistakes go all the way back to 2019 in the Newsnight interview, and even before then with the connections with Epstein back in 2011. It's part of the reason why Andrew lost his trade envoy status and these sorts of things. And it's so important, I think, that William and his view of the monarchy is correct here, which is that you have to manage these potentially rogue royals. You have to get them under control because they do represent the monarchy to a certain extent. And if they behave badly, it reflects on the institution. And unfortunately, it brings more scrutiny on the overall institution. This has been one of the really bad things about this whole Andrew mess, is that so many people are focusing more on even the good aspects of the monarchy are being twisted into something negative. And so to basically frame the monarchy and protect it, you have to, I think, clear house. You have to make some really hard decisions that it just seems like Charles is completely unwilling to make. And this very slow response is just not working in a news cycle that is rapid fire. And so Charles, I think, is completely kind of mismanaged the situation. I think he doesn't want to deal with it to a certain extent. And William is like, I want to, protect the throne, protect the future of the country in this way. And Charles is just seemingly unwilling or just very, very slow to go there, worried about upsetting the family dynamic, but it's already upset. And in order to make sure I think you avoid these future situations, you have to deal with this one now and you have to deal with Harry as well. That's the only way I think the monarchy is going to regain some of the reputation that it's lost.
Yeah, indeed. And then, Brittany, the other thing I found super interesting, because remember, we have had this cone of silence from the king. Now, I don't agree with that. I personally think it's a huge mistake, but that is clearly the strategy. Say nothing, keep calm, carry on, but
Mhm.
don't address this. Just hope that it's going away. I think it's so naive. I think we need much more from the king. But what's super interesting is these royal sources, as I say, these will be sources from Buckingham Palace, making it clear that the king has not seen Andrew and effectively saying that he has no plans to, that that's it, their relationship is over. And that's very odd given that he is on the Sandringham estate. I mean, he's in his house. It's a very, very strange piece of briefing for me.
They maintained careers, family lives, and lower-key public roles without overt controversy. Yet in a monarchy reshaping itself for the future, association alone can be costly. If the York branch is seen as reputational risk, even indirectly, then strategic sidelining becomes a protective maneuver. But protection for whom? The crown? The future king? Or the broader brand? For Prince Harry, this development likely resonates on a deeply personal level. Harry knows what it feels like to move from center stage to the margins. He understands what it means to feel repositioned rather than included. Beatrice and Eugenie were often described as some of the few family members who maintained open lines of communication across the divide. They were not outspoken critics, nor were they publicly partisan.
It is a little odd, Dan, because obviously they are so close. And really, at this point, Charles is not going to go there and be all cuddly with Andrew or any sort of thing. But I really do think, much like you do, number one, Charles needs to actually speak to the public somewhat about what happened, explain how the monarchy is going to make adjustments to avoid this in the future, because the whole situation, even avoiding Andrew on his own Sandringham estate, very much looks like an ostrich with their head in the sand. If I just don't look at it, if I just don't deal with it, maybe, just maybe, it'll go away. But this is not gonna go away, and I think it would even benefit Charles to have some sort of meeting with Andrew and going, "What else is there? This is no longer a joke. This is no longer funny or whatever. Maybe I have my royal prerogative or something. I'm not sure." It's like, what else do we need to know? Because we are going to make these decisions. We need to know more information because I think part of the problem here is that the monarchy never pressed Andrew on any of these details, and they seem completely blindsided by the extent of his behavior with Epstein. And it should be something any smart PR person would tell you. They need to know the nitty gritty details so that they can prevent a bigger backlash in the future. And the monarchy just didn't do that. Their strategy so far for years now has been, well, we'll just put Andrew on the periphery there and we'll just ignore him. But he's eighth in the line of succession. He is a counselor of state, technically. This can is not something that can just be ignored. Keep calm and carry on. It just is not working here. We need something else.
Yeah, indeed. Brittany, hold that thought. Hold that thought. This is the new genius idea that is going to make Meghan Markle billions. A new bookmark. A new bookmark. Lauren the Insider, her reaction to this was interesting. Actually, Poppet, taking your titles away and removing you from the royal website needs to be finished at once. We can turn the page on a book and don't need an overpriced piece of letter with squiggles on. Continue. And GB News, which is now, I mean, it's such a shame to me, Brittany, but just fully in the Meghan Markle propaganda camp. I mean, I couldn't believe this article. Meghan Markle's latest bookmark sells out in less than 24 hours again. And you quite rightly pick them up, fact check them, Brittany, and say, actually, that's not right. There's plenty of bookmarks left. Meghan just forces anyone who wants to buy it in an expensive bundle starting at $48 and going all the way up to $147. It's a rather sleazy business practice to move unpopular inventory. So what's really going on here, Brittany?
Oh, it's rather fascinating, Dan. So Megan had, and this is just my theory, but she sold the bookmark individually for $20, which is also $2 more expensive than what she sold it for just in January. And so she's like 4 or 6 weeks later, and she's bumping up the price, which is skeevy on its own. But what I think she did is actually have a very small quantity that could just sell on its own. And then for the rest, she paired it with other inventory pieces, the tea, the candles, some of the spread or whatever, these sorts of things. And so the whole bundle is priced at retail. So every single piece in this bundle you can buy individually for the exact same price. But the only extra thing you get and the extra $20 you pay is just for the bookmark. Because I think what Megan did, because we know she has absurd levels of inventory. And again, this actually proves that the inventory numbers that were 600,000 plus in January that were revealed were essentially accurate because she's trying desperately to move this inventory. I even counted and I've gotten 10 emails from As Ever in just the month of February. And if you count March
Oh my
1st, that's
God.
11. She is, this reeks of a level of desperation that wasn't there before. I actually went back and looked, and she usually sent like 1 or 2 emails, maybe a month, but we're getting to absurd levels. She wants to sell so badly, and things just aren't moving. And you can just smell the
Well,
desperation
of course,
coming off
because
this
we know
brand.
about the inventory now because of the mistake on the
Hmm.
website. And Brittany, these are perishable goods in some cases. And the argument
Hmm.
was, oh, well, no, there's lots of supply because, of course, we're launching the international website and we're going to be able to sell around the world. Well, I have seen no evidence of that yet. So this business is in deep trouble. Brittany, the Mail are reporting that Netflix are considering bringing back The Crown for a special on Andrew's downfall. Now, I think this was slightly misleading. It seems to me that it's more like a dramatic special rather than specifically necessarily a return of the crown. But let me just read out their reporting from Caroline Graham, the US editor of the Mail on Sunday, who writes, now the Daily Mail has learned that Netflix is considering a one-off special of the crown after last week's dramatic arrest. The streaming service, which aired 6 seasons of its critically acclaimed show about the royal family, is in advanced talks with the show's creator for a limited series about the former prince's spectacular downfall. Last night, a source told the Daily Mail the events of last week are historic and unprecedented. There have been discussions for some time with Left Bank Pictures, which owns the rights to The Crown, for a series of one-off specials about royal scandals and drama. The Crown as a series has ended, but the name will live on. There have been advanced talks about doing a limited series under the Crown banner about the Andrew saga, which is as dramatic, if not more dramatic, than anything shown in the original series, which included episodes on the abdication and the death of Diana. Well, actually, so maybe it is sort of coming back, Brittany, but like as a... It sounds like it would be almost as one-off specials rather than like a full series. That's what I was picking up there anyway.
And maybe a documentary, Dan, if maybe I'm reading that right, more documentaries, that can go over a scandal in like an hour or something. That could be a possibility. It would seem rather weird to hire a bunch of actors just for this little bit, but The Crown is a great reminder that actually real life is often stranger than fiction. There's actually, when I look back through history, especially, I'm surprised always how much Hollywood misses.
Harry could interpret it not as coincidence, but as pattern. A monarchy reducing its orbit. A future king narrowing the circle. And if that circle shrinks too far, it stops looking like reform and starts looking like isolation. Strip away the personalities, and this may be something even more profound. William's approach suggests structure, hierarchy, discipline. Harry has often advocated a more emotionally open, modern, and flexible institution. These aren't just stylistic differences. They are fundamentally different interpretations of what the monarchy should represent in the 21st century.
Let's say scripted series or anything about the royal family right now is probably definitely not something that they want, that they're not looking forward to, because it just regurgitates sort of the negative narratives that are already dominating the media. And this again goes back to the idea of Charles needing to take more of the reins of the scandal and crisis rather than just letting it roll and hope it goes away. Because I think thing is just going to gain momentum, or at least remain steady for the next couple of years, because we may have a trial in the future, these sorts of things. So much for documentarians or for fiction writers and these sorts of things to mine, to kind of share the worst aspects of the royal family rather than focusing on the best ones.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, It's going to be irresistible for them, though, isn't it, Brittany?
Mhm.
Because apparently there are other people who are also looking at doing stuff too. The screenwriter Jeremy Brock, who wrote Amazon MGM Studios 2024 three-part drama, A Very Royal Scandal, starring Michael Sheen and Ruth Wilson. This was the one that recreated the Andrew interview. Also seems to be considering doing something. He told the Daily Mail, Netflix and Amazon executives are 100% talking about making a drama based on Andrew's continued downfall. There will be writers and producers scribbling away right now because it's such great drama and the most extraordinary story. There are so many elements in this unfolding drama. Andrew, the royal family, the police who had to tread so very carefully in arresting him, Epstein's victims and his powerful friends. How does this affect Beatrice and Eugenie? It's like every daughter's idea of hell. And I mean, that is all true, Brittany, but I guess it depends on the timeline, doesn't it? Because the issue is this story ain't over yet, and it
Mm.
might get more dramatic. I mean, there is at the very least the potential for a courtroom conclusion. I mean, there's even I don't like saying it, I do believe in due process, Brittany, but there is the potential for a jail conclusion.
Mhm. There definitely is, Dan, in this situation. We just don't know where the outcome is, and unfortunately for the Royals, and I think the good work they're trying to do, this is just going to drag out for probably years and years. I hate to say it, but there's just really no end in sight to this scandal, and so there is plenty for people to mine in this entertainment industry, these sorts of things. However, I will say I would be very interested in I believe it was called the Windsors, the satire series. That was good enjoyment. So I wouldn't mind seeing more of that when it comes to the Royals, but I think I'm okay with not having any more royal dramas for a while.